This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Growing up, it was just like something that we never really talked about. And I think my mom did shy away from her feelings and didn't like to talk about things that made her maybe sad or kind of open up. Yeah, I just felt like, man, there's got to be something that could either guide conversations or help us explore what is the most important parts of ourselves that we need to leave behind for our kids, our grandkids, our family, spouses, whoever.
This is the Heart of Hospice podcast with Helen Bauer. Kera Sanchez is my guest today. She's the creator of the Legacy Letters Journal, a passion project that originated out of the loss of her mom. Whether you're a family caregiver or an end-of-life professional, the Heart of Hospice is here to enhance your hospice experience by connecting you with information you can use about end-of-life care.
Today's episode is sponsored by Odonata Care. Odonata's motto is, "Care is treatment." They have a mission to transform the end-of-life experience for the patient and caregivers through education and support. Odonata Care is revolutionizing the hospice experience with their booklet, The Care Plan, A Path to Comfort for the Hospice Patient, along with 50 free YouTube videos that teach the basics of bedside care. Visit thecareplan.net for more information. Now, here's today's episode.
You're going to love my guest today. I know I say that every single time, but this young woman is a breath of fresh air, and she has created meaning from an intensely grievous event that happened in her life. Kera Sanchez is a high school Spanish teacher in the Chicago area. She's a wife and a mom of two. In June of 2022, just days after her younger child was born, her mom died unexpectedly in Italy, of all things, leaving her with profound grief. Due to the sudden nature of her mom's death, Kera found herself wishing she had had more conversations about the deeper things in life, and she was searching for more than that. She didn't want to leave her own daughters in a similar predicament, so she created Legacy Letters. It's a guided journal that prompts users to write down love, advice, and support for the people that they love. It's an amazing book, an amazing project. I don't even want to call it a book because it's an active, living tool that you can use. So here's my conversation with Kera Sanchez. Kera, thanks so much for being on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, it's been a long time since we connected and chatted, and I know you stay busy. You're a teacher, so you're off for the summer, but you've got two kiddos at home, don't you?
I sure do. Yep.
So here's my icebreaker question for you, because I know your life is busy.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite TV show or streaming show that you're watching right now?
Ooh, so I'm going to be honest. We do not watch a ton of TV. However, I do occasionally throw on a show for my girls to keep them occupied so I can get some things done around the house. And right now, there's something called aquanauts. I don't know. It's like these little creatures that are in a spaceship that can go up in the air and under the sea, and they explore the earth and usually introduce like a new animal for the kids and kind of tell them about them. So it's somewhat educational. So that's what we're working on right now.
I love it. I figured that if you answered that, it would be something like Miss Rachel or Coco Melon, that it wouldn't be a grown-up show, that it would
No.
be whatever helps you survive the day with your kids.
Oh my gosh. The grown-up shows, if we try to watch them, either I fall asleep because it's after the kids are in bed and I'm exhausted, or I have to stop it every 15 minutes and it takes me like 2 hours to watch, a half-hour episode. So
Oh, right. You just have to start. It's totally not worth it. And I have to say that, so I have 2 grandchildren. One is almost 2 and the other one's a few months behind that. And I actually follow Miss Rachel on Instagram because I like her stuff. And she posts things that are for parents as well, that are kind of funny and touching. And she makes fun of herself even. So I follow that, even though I'm a grandma and I don't have hands-on kids these days.
Love that.
Okay, we're going to jump in because I love your passion project. I love the work that you're doing. It's awesome stuff. So what prompted you to create the Legacy Letters journals after your mom died?
Yes. So my initial reaction when I first found out that my mom died was, oh my gosh, one day my daughters are going to be in this exact position that I am in. And I just remember thinking how crummy and how awful I felt about several things. One, me and my mom at the time when she passed, we were not in the best space. Like overall, our entire life, we had a great relationship. But I feel like since I became a mom, there was just some things that were rocky or contentious topics for us. And we were butting heads a little bit. And so one, I was just feeling like, man, I wish I could go back and we could focus on all the best parts of our relationship. And 2, there was just so many things that I feel like we left unsaid. And 3, my mom was in the position that I was in. Her father died like 3 months after I was born. So she was a new mom grappling with grief. And growing up, it was just like something that we never really talked about. And I think my mom did shy away from her feelings and didn't like to talk about things that made her maybe sad or kind of open up. But yeah, I just felt like, man, there's got to be something that could either guide conversations or help us explore what is the most important parts of ourselves that we need to leave behind for our kids, our grandkids, our family, spouses, whoever you would want to leave something important to.
So your second child was already born or had just been born when your mom died?
Yes. Actually, it's a little bit of a crazy story, and I don't want to go too much into it, only for the time. But if anyone's interested, I've talked about it multiple times on my Instagram, and there's videos and stuff about it. But yes, my mom was actually with me the day that my daughter was born because I had COVID when I was giving birth, and they wouldn't let my husband into the hospital because he also had COVID. So I basically went into labor about a full month early. Actually, yesterday, 7/7, would have been my original due date and my daughter's birthday. But because I went into labor a full month early, my mom ended up being home and she was around and available to be at the hospital with me when I gave birth. But then shortly after that, once my husband tested negative, he came to the hospital. He was able to be with me. And then, it was like the changing of the guard where my husband tagged my mom out and was like, okay, you can go now, because I was only allowed to have one guest or one visitor. And my mom was going on a trip. She had a 2-week vacation planned with friends and family. And that's where she ended up passing away, was on her trip on vacation. It was completely unexpected. We truly don't know the cause. We're speculating it was a pulmonary embolism, but definitely something very quick, sudden. We had no idea this was going to happen. And I didn't realize that the last day that I was going to see her was the day that she was helping me bring my daughter into the world. So it's honestly just a complete crazy set of circumstances. And I'm very grateful now that we had that experience and that time together. But at the time, I was very frustrated at the fact that my husband wasn't allowed into the hospital. But I don't know, there's a bigger plan out there, and it ended up working out just the way we needed it to, because I did need that time with my mom.
Yeah. Just a really weird set of circumstances to set that up.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know the podcast, obviously, just by our name, The Heart of Hospice, we typically talk about end-of-life care. But one of the big things involved in end-of-life care is grief, anticipatory grief, and then grief and bereavement following a loss. And that's why we wanted to have you on the show, is because the Legacy Letters Journal is all about grief and bereavement, although it can be used prior to a death too. So it's really flexible. So tell us about the journal itself and how you came up with the idea and what you want people to get from it.
Sure. So the journal goes through a variety of different topics or themes. And then there's subtopics below that. So basically it just kind of prompts you to think of different messages you would want to leave behind to your loved ones. Some of it is more about you as a person. So that way people will always remember what you were like, your favorite foods, colors, memories that you have, music, movies, books, all that kind of stuff. And then it kind of gets deeper as the book moves forward. Lots of messages in case you are not there for milestone moments like weddings, graduations, career advice, parenting, and yeah, just a lot of heartfelt messages that I myself found wanting to hear from my mom. Things that I wish that while I was grieving, I had those letters to support me in the process of losing her. Because also my husband, he lost his mom about a year and a half before I did. And so we kind of put our heads together and we thought of all the things that we wish we could still talk to our parents about, or our moms about specifically. And that's kind of where it was born and where it came from. It was just all of these things left unsaid and wanting to make sure that me specifically, that's what I would want to leave to my kids. And then hopefully other people would think the same.
Yeah, those special moments, those milestones, like one of your kids is getting married. And if you're unable to be there because you've already passed away, you want to say, since I can't be with you on this day, or if I'm not with you on this day, here's what I would want you to know.
Exactly.
Or you're getting ready to graduate from college and get your first job. Here's what I learned. Here's what was special to me. And then all the personal stuff. Here's who I was here, so that you can hold on to those things. I think there's maybe some life review, which is something we do in hospice, right? It's reminiscing and reliving and reviewing memories and just a lot of revisiting certain milestones, even regretful milestones, right? Things that were difficult or hard that you went through. So what do you think the effects of writing the letters are for the person who's actually using the journal and recording those things?
Well, I think one, it gives them a sense of control back a little bit, because that is one thing that we really truly cannot control is the exact moment of our passing. And so I feel as if it eliminates some of those fears that people have of, what if I don't get to say this? Or what if I don't get to express my true feelings about this? It's almost, in my opinion, kind of like estate planning or like writing a will, but it's like an emotional will. And you're making sure that you are leaving behind, your advice, your love, your support, all of the things to the people that mean the most to you. And I think that gives some people a sense of relief in a way to give them that opportunity to put everything out on the table.
I like that. A way of connecting back. Why do you think that's so powerful for people?
Well, I think a lot of times people fear that they're going to be forgotten, or they fear that their children, for example, are going to be lost without, your guidance or whatever. And I feel like when you create something like that, write down those words for them, you are providing them with things in their toolbox that they can bring with them moving forward. And you're also giving them that opportunity and permission to move forward with life. And I think that that's been something when it comes to grief specifically. People don't like using the term moving on. And I agree, I don't like it because it implies that you are forgetting about somebody or you're forgetting about the situation that you are in. But I do think it's good to move forward with your life when you're ready, after you've had, your moments. But when you're ready to move forward with your life, and you still bring them with you. And I think that that's why these letters are important, because that's a way, anytime you feel like their presence is not with you, you can open up one of those prompts and read what they wrote.
Nobody wants to feel like they're going to be invisible, like it just didn't happen. And really, we never move on. It's when I agree with you. When you say move on, it sounds like, okay, I've done this, I've been there, done that. I'm setting it down and I'll go down the road. Like a restart, a reset.
Yeah,
that's that part of that phase of my life where my mom is still alive, where my dad is still with me. I'm done with that piece. So I'll just go on. And of course, it doesn't work that way. It becomes a part of who we are. Absolutely, those relationships stay with us. Those memories, good and bad, they all come with us. So moving forward with that, we're forever changed. But that's part of being human. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
How we handle it can be healthy or unhealthy. But I think it's so healthy to be able to put into words and write those things down. When I think about my grandbabies, I think about that. If for some reason I might not be there at a graduation or a wedding or when their first child is born. Here's what I would tell you. And here's what your mom was like when she was a little girl, that kind of thing.
Yep.
I love that idea. It's a legacy of sorts, a legacy project of sorts.
The sponsor for this episode of The Heart of Hospice is Odonata Care. Odonata Care founders Nancy Hireman and Brenda Kazire are certified hospice and palliative nurses with over 40 years combined experience. They are experts in end-of-life care. Nancy and Brenda have created a 32-page booklet called The Care Plan, A Path to Comfort for the Hospice Patient. Their goal is to empower patients and their caregivers with valuable information right at their fingertips, wherever and whenever they need it. Odonata Care also offers a suite of 50 free training videos on YouTube that teaches the basics of bedside care for personal and professional caregivers. Odonata Care's motto is "Care is treatment," which is why their bottom line is caring for the patient. Nancy and Brenda have a mission to transform the end-of-life experience through education and support. You can purchase copies of the Care Plan for yourself or your hospice agency at thecareplan.net. And look for their new Spanish version coming to their online store very soon. Now, back to today's episode.
So what's some of the feedback you've been receiving from people who are using the journal?
A lot of the feedback has come from moms. That's like my biggest target audience, I've realized, is moms, and then obviously people who have lost a parent, I would say. A lot of the moms said, thank you, because believe it or not, one of the most popular baby shower gifts that my friends have received was like a journal, but a lot of times they're kind of blank or the prompts are overly generic, and it's hard for them to zone in or hone in to specific things that they would like to leave for their children. And I personally think, because of my teaching background, this is kind of in my wheelhouse, that working backwards to design and thinking of where people are going to have hiccups or where people are going to get stuck, and breaking it down into even smaller chunks for them, more manageable pieces that will also inspire them to come up with something or some type of memory or something specific that they could leave. So a lot of people said, thank you for being so specific and thorough. And then the other feedback I've gotten was from people who were much like me, that they unexpectedly lost a parent, or they had a parent that was in hospice. And so they immediately bought it for their parent. And then now that their parent is no longer here, anytime they have a friend or someone that they know, a coworker, whoever, that is going through it with the process of losing a parent, or their parents or grandparents are in hospice, that is something that they've gone back and purchased again for other people as a gift. So I would say I have a lot of like repeat customers, people that just keep coming back because there's other people in their life that they're like, yes, this person needs this. So yeah, those are like the two big pieces of feedback that I get that seems to be like a pattern.
I think it's a daunting task. If you think, okay, I'm just going to get a blank journal and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write all these, everything I want to say, everything you want to say to a child or grandchild, really?
You're like, what?
Yeah. How are you supposed to cover all that? All the wisdom I want to share with you, or my recipe for biscuits, that came to me from my grandmother who taught me to cook in her kitchen, that kind of stuff. It just seems like such a big task. And I think a lot of times when we're faced with projects like that, legacy projects, for one thing, it's just laced with so much emotion. And then it seems so big. Where do I start so I don't start at all?
Yep.
Consequently, it never gets done. And you have this regret that I didn't say this. I didn't pass this on. I didn't tell that story again so that they would always remember it, and they would hear it in my voice through my writing. I think that part of it has a lot of power.
Yeah.
A lot of power. And I love what you're saying about using it for somebody who does have a serious illness or a terminal illness who's in hospice. That is a legacy project, and it would be a great way to structure a legacy project. So you pick and choose. You don't have to answer all the questions.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think with some of our patients who are pretty ill, they may or may not be able to write, right? Because of physical issues, but somebody could record it, be the scribe for them, or they could toss out the questions and then actually record them and have the audio recordings.
That's true.
Yeah. And using all those prompts, but you don't have to use all the prompts. I would wonder if some of the prompts, if you really get in there and wade into it, that it can be overwhelming if you try to do all of it.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I do have like in the beginning, just my personal recommendations, and you don't have to follow it, but I feel like you do not need to put any pressure on yourself to complete it in any set time frame or try to get it done all at once. I almost feel like you just kind of flip through it and see what stands out to you and start there, or just flip through it and analyze what's there. And as life goes on, like, oh, yes, there's that prompt. I'm going to add to it now, So, and that's how I plan on using it. I would like to fill them out for my daughters as they're growing up, and just as moments go by, I am going to know what specific things will be perfect for specific prompts.
Yeah. What you want to share. And I mean, as adults, we change, we have experiences, our mindsets and our opinions change, and we learn new things. So coming back to revisit the prompts, oh, here's something I've learned that I want to share with you. This is different. Or here's something that I remember differently from when I was a kid. Yeah, I can see how that would be kind of cool to do that.
Yeah.
So as you're getting this feedback, especially from women like you who have lost a parent, a lot of them probably suddenly, how does that feedback affect your grief? Because it hasn't been that long since your mother died.
Yeah, it's been a year. I feel like, I hate like using these terms or these like catchphrases and stuff when they say like everything happens for a reason, because one, I don't think that all the time death does happen for a specific reason, but just the way that my mom died and how it all lined up, like the synchronicity of me going into labor early. She could have not been home, or I don't know, just everything with her being there for my daughter's birth, all of that stuff. I do think that that was genuinely like her time to go, even though it was premature. And I feel like she had so much life left to live. And I feel as if for me, as much as this grief journey has been incredibly challenging and just heart-wrenching, and I miss my mom every day, I also feel like this has given me a different purpose and a new perspective on what life is and why we're here. And I don't know, I guess there's like a silver lining in my grief journey in a weird way, that at least I can help other people not be in a position that I was in, where, wow, like my mom died and the conversations are over and I'm left wondering and wanting more. And I don't have that, but other people could have that. And so I guess it just, I don't know, gives me a little bit of a warm fuzzy that I can offer that to people.
Yeah, that's meaning. You've created some meaning from loss, which is an incredible gift. And I think a lot of these small projects, entrepreneurs that come up with fantastic ideas like the journal, and then they push those out and it grows and it expands as they reach out to other people. I think work like that and wonderful innovation comes from loss.
Yes.
But it is about creating meaning, looking at it and saying, this is what I've learned. And if I can share that with somebody else who's going through the same thing, wow, isn't that a powerful thing to be able to share?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, I think there's incredible power there, but it is about making meaning. David Kessler, who co-wrote with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, has a book out called, I think, The Sixth Stage of Meaning, and a sixth stage of grieving. And it is about making meaning. He lost an adult son, young age, and he found that as he shared his grief journey and what he was learning and experiencing, that he was creating meaning. And for him, that was part of all those phases, stages, characteristics of grief, that became part of it for him. And he found that it was very healing. And I think that's what the journal is. There's some healing that comes with that. And maybe for you too, as the creator of it.
Yeah.
I love that. So would you share some of the things that you've written in your own?
I have to be honest, I have not started my own yet for my daughters, but my intention is that I will have one for each child. I think people have the option to just create a generic one, but for me, I think the messages will change based off of who the intended audience is. And so I do think I would like to have one for each child. And I know specifically the first prompt that I'm going to dive in with, and it's a reflection on my grief journey. And it is in the grieving heart section of the book. Another year has come and gone. The anniversary of my passing can reopen new wounds. Just remember how far you have come and all the lessons you have learned. Here's my experience with grief. For me, that is such an important prompt to start with, because like I said, my mom was in a similar position that I was in when I was born. Her father died. And I guess looking back, and I look through pictures of, my infancy and childhood, and I honestly can't say that I remember my mom like being sad, or I don't remember like how she dealt with that. And I feel like she could have written me the guidebook right now of how to get through this journey and this experience. So for me, I think that's the most important thing that I want to leave to my daughters, is how to do that, how to navigate life without me. So I don't know. That's when I want to start with, like, as soon as possible.
It seems like a sad topic, and of course it's going to bring up some emotions for you. But when you think about the joy that it might bring them at some point,
yes,
right? To be able to read that, and to know that it came from your life experiences. And we know that even when our kids are little bitty people, They have their own little individual personalities and quirks and characteristics. And you know that you need to feed this child in a certain way and then feed this child in a certain way. So I think that's probably really smart to be able to have an individual journal. And okay, so I will tell you, I have no judgment that you haven't done your own journal because you have 2 kids under 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two under 3. So
2 under 3. Wow. Yes, you may be off for the summer from your pay job, but you're working at your unpaid job the rest of the time.
Yes, that's true.
So no parent's going to judge you for the fact that you haven't done those. I think that's really cool. What do you think about this being incorporated into sort of advanced care planning?
So my only experience that I personally have with hospice was with my grandmother, and she was like in-home hospice for over a year before she went into like a hospice facility. And I remember now looking back that they were sending over like social workers and things like that. But we as family members were not really included in a lot of those conversations. And man, I think it would have been so cool for my grandma. I think she would have done it. She would have filled it out and she would have left us so many awesome words of wisdom and snippets and pieces of the past that otherwise would have gone forgotten. And I wish I had it, And so I really do think that, like you said, it's a life review, a life reflection, and it's digging up these artifacts that sometimes you forget that they're there. And so you want to make sure that they're memorialized in a special way. And in my opinion, in your own handwriting is, if you can, it's so special and beautiful. And it truly is like a family heirloom at one point. So I don't know. I think it could be something very special for people. And it's affordable too, because I know that there's other things out there, other services out there, but they're very expensive. So I don't know. I think that this is just a very simple, easy way to leave really important things behind for others.
Would your grandmother have been this warm, fuzzy type, I used to do this with you when you were a baby, and I remember when your mother did this, and here's what I want to tell you about your wedding? Or would she have been, remember to stand up straight and...
warm, fuzzy.
She would have been warm and fuzzy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, warm fuzzy.
I love that. Yeah. My grandmother would not have been warm and fuzzy. It would have been, make sure you brush your hair. Don't chew gum when you're at church, that kind of thing. So out of all these prompts that you've written inside this journal, obviously this was a work of heart because you've done this in the last year when you've been grieving the loss of your mom and dealing with having a brand new baby who made you go to a mom of one and only child to multiple kids. What are some of your favorite prompts out of the journal?
I have 2 about in the section of like when you need a hug, because like I feel like you just always need your mom, right? And like at least for me, that's where my inspiration came from. So 2 of the ones that I really enjoy is my wish for you. My love for you is endless. I hope you know how much I pray for your happiness. My wish for you in life is, so you get to express what you hope, they become with their life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be career focused. It could just be, you want them to be happy and you want them to enjoy all of the experiences and things that life has to offer. And there's one about life's purpose. The purpose of life is a life of purpose. Here are my thoughts on the purpose of our life. Yeah, those I tend to be a little bit more profound and deep, but those are definitely 2 of my favorites. And then I do like the ones at the beginning where it's just all about you as a person, because I know right now I'm searching for ways I can still connect with my mom. And so if I had a list of all of her favorite movies or like a playlist of music that she likes or different food, books, things like that, that's a way I could feel close to her. Be like, oh, my mom recommended this book. I'm going to go read it now. And, just think of, why she liked it and still be able to have that connection with them. So yeah, those are my favorite.
Isn't that a cool thing? So if you made your list of your top 10 movies and then you think the person reading it thinks my mom recommended this, It was on
Yes.
her list of top 10.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I really, really like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Kera, tell my listeners how they can get connected with you, read about it, and order a journal for themselves.
So everything is basically the same handle. It is Legacy Letters Journal. So if it's on Instagram, at Legacy Letters Journal. If it's my website, www.legacylettersjournal.com. And I did just start Threads. I don't know what I'm doing, but we'll see how it goes. Same thing, Legacy Letters Journal. And yeah, those are basically the three things that I use to kind of spread my information. So Instagram, Threads, and my website.
Where can somebody buy the journal?
Oh, I'm sorry. That is right now on Amazon. However, I'm also currently scouting out local bookstores because I really think trying to help small businesses I would rather tell people to go there versus like the big man. So,
Right.
Yeah, right now it's just on Amazon. So we'll see where it goes.
Okay. I'll have a link in the show notes to your website, to your social media, and to the Amazon site to go straight in and purchase a journal. So, Kera, thank you so much for sharing so much of your personal story and so much of your mom, right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So glad to talk with you today. You're doing such great work.
Thank you.
Kera's story, I think, resonates with a lot of younger people. You know, we have this cultural view, this expectation that the losses in our lives occur at a certain time in a certain season. You don't lose your parents until they're very old. You never lose a child. A child never dies before a parent. And if there's a group of siblings, the deaths occur with the oldest one first, and you go down the row chronologically until the youngest one dies. And of course, we know life is not that way at all. Kera was a brand new mom with her second child and a young mom when her own mother died. And the fact that it wasn't just quick, it was overseas of all things, and Kera said she and her mom had been butting heads, so their relationship had become a little bit abrasive at the same time. So Kera realized there were a lot of things she wanted to learn from her mom, and that's how the Legacy Letters Journal was born. She wanted to help people leave those important messages to someone that they love, just like those things that she wanted to hear from her mom, the things that she didn't get to hear from her mom. Kera feels like writing in the journal allows people to have some control over the message that they leave behind for people at a time when you can anticipate a loss and losing connection and leaving things unsaid. Having that journal with those things written down helps someone feel close to them even when you're no longer there. People have also purchased the Legacy Letters Journal for family or friends who are in hospice. So, of course, that's where we come in. The journal has prompts to help the writer focus on a specific topic to share. You don't have to do all of them. You can pick and choose what has meaning for you, what speaks to you that day. She also said that you could write in one prompt and then come back if you wanted to add something to it later on, just based on what you're feeling and thinking. So there's no specific pattern or order that you have to follow it in or that you have to do all of it. It's a lot like grief. It's customized and you get to create it the way you want to. And she feels like working this project has helped her move forward in her own grief journey, and she's been able to create some meaning from her mom's death. So check out legacylettersjournal.com. Connect with Kera on her social media. I have links in the show notes, so you'll be able to go straight to it. And you can also go to Amazon and purchase a journal for yourself or for somebody you care about. be sure to catch the next episode of the Heart of Hospice podcast. You'll find more episodes on theheartofhospice.com. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can connect with the Heart of Hospice on Facebook and Instagram, and send your questions or comments to me by email to helen@theheartofhospice.com. And remember, no matter who you are or where you are in your hospice journey, you are the heart of hospice.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.